I wanted to talk about debate. There's just sort of, I don't mean like academic debate where people write papers back and forth. I'm just talking about the idea of sort of the concept of live debate and how much value it has.
Okay.
So I was recently watching a debate between Peter Hitchens and Ben Judah.
Okay.
Everyone has a pundit who they just hate more than anyone else. For you, it's probably Dave Rubin.
No, I don't hate Dave Rubin at all. Dave Rubin brings me a lot of joy.
Well, I guess personally, sorry, never mind.
No worries. But anyway, so who do you? Yes. So you tell us who you hate, but then let's try to make it into a question. All right, brother.
Okay, sorry.
No worries.
So, I was wondering how much value do you think live debate has? Because I was watching a debate, and I was listening to Peter Hitchens make a point, which the core concept of it was basically that if an empire loses territory, it can't be expansionist, and you don't have to worry about that empire.
Okay, well, that's a pretty dumb point. If you're representing that correctly, that's a very dumb thing to say. In fact, I've always thought Peter Hitchens was a reactionary, but a lot more clever than that. So it sounds weird.
Yeah.
Yep.
The gist of it was that since the Russian Empire lost a huge amount of territory after the Soviet Union collapsed.
Well, let's not get into that. So your question is, do you think live debates are valuable? And I think that live debates. I think. Because as an example, I think Zizek, I have watched more of that debate. I think he did a great job with Peterson, even actually down to the fact that he was polite and didn't go in for the kill. I think that actually was very smart, very well played. So I kind of am, I think it's like anything else. I mean, sometimes yes, sometimes no. I mean, I don't have a particularly strong feeling about it one way or another, but it does seem that it actually can still shine a light in a good way at times.
Yeah,
I appreciate the call. Thanks, man.
I'm a reformist when it comes to live debates and not an abolitionist. I think, first of all, the crowd there shouldn't be a live crowd to feed into anything people say, because then it just turns into a demagoguery affair.
Right.
There should be a moderator, the people involved in the debate, and then no one else.
Right, I agree.
And that's how the presidential debates should be too. There should not be crowds at presidential debates at all. I honestly it would have been amazing to see Trump debate without a crowd in the 2016 primary.
Oh, he would have looked terrible.
Exactly. So I think that from that perspective, there's non-logical stuff like that creeping into these live debates, and it's mainly about rhetorical performance. On the other hand, I like a lot of these
and
debates.
Even without that, they are about rhetorical performance. I just also think you got to go in knowing what it is, and unless it's and I actually think I have to say I think one of the reasons that people also kind of enjoyed the Zizek Peterson thing was because it, in a weird way, it was even though it was this prime for what that is, quote unquote, entertainment event, it was actually kind of mutually respectful in a way that actually sort of played well. And I think even, again, I think the fact that Peterson, the fact that he couldn't pivot, Michael Eric Dyson, in my view, it just wasn't okay, Michael Eric Dyson made some lines that are satisfying to, our side to some extent, but Peterson could just go a mind meld into that. And with this case, it was just literally super politely and super friendly, but seriously, dude, you read the Communist Manifesto? You read a pamphlet in preparation to debate a world system philosophy? If I read a Young op-ed from 1945 and came to you and said, I'm ready to talk about Young, you would be like, what are you talking about?
You're supposed to be an expert on Marxist totalitarianism, and it's the first time you picked up one of his easiest to read publications.
And I'm not even convinced that he read it.
Yeah.
And also assigned to 10th graders.
Right.
That is not.
Yeah, I read that in high school.
Yeah, that's
political
not philosophy
science class.
and economics. That's literally that's a campaign manifesto.
And he didn't research any of the sort of like details around the publication or production of the manifesto. Like he's a charlatan. There is no question about that. Like the idea that he wrote the Gulag Archipelago. I mean, he doesn't know what he's talking about.
Stuff. I think he believes in this stuff,
but he doesn't have
no idea what he's talking about.
I mean, I think you can be a good faith charlatan. Like but I think his level of expertise for someone who wrote the Gulag Archipelago introduction for Penguin Classics, it's a joke, and it's going to be a funnier one as it becomes more evident to people.
And if you look, like I've waded a little bit into the Lobster Boy subreddit, and some of these lobster boys recognize that their daddy got owned, and now they're taking a second look at him.
Who's your daddy?
Taking a first look
I can't
at
do a Zizek.
Their new daddy, Slavoj Zizek. And like, I don't agree with everything that Zizek has said. I do think sometimes he says things just to get a rise out of people, and he speaks in these weird dialectics. So if you take one clip of him, it sounds a lot worse than it actually is. But he has said some really shitty things about trans people and immigrants. But like, I understand that this debate was not necessarily for me. And if he can get Jordan Peterson's fans to abandon him, that's at least one step towards my kind of politics, and maybe I can scoop them up after that.
Yeah, and I'm a Zizek. I just want to, the only thing I will say about Zizek, I don't want to open up this whole debate, but I do think it's like important to note that, and I guess where my basic dividing line is like nothing he's ever written or said actually implicates the rights or the protections of anybody, and that's my bottom line. Like that's, so, and his critiques and things he's pointing to, again, Zizek is somebody that you do literally need to put him in context. Like, this is not Sam Harris. This is somebody who really actually does require highly attentive reading. And yeah, he's written some dumb political op-eds, but he's brilliant.
All that stuff aside, to Jamie's point about the people in the lobster edit, that goes back to what we're talking about with Ben Burgess and the whole give them an argument sort of thing. Because we can sit here and say, you bought into Jordan Peterson, well, you're a hopeless case, get the fuck out of here. And that's true for a lot of those people. But there's also a huge, like hundreds of thousands of those people who are just neophytes and 100%. Are dipping their toes into sort of politics for the first time in their 20s or something
and actually
like that.
Again, another word that's been destroyed, but like ideas.
Yeah.
And being interested in books and interested in thinking about the world. And that's a good thing. And it can be harnessed for great ideas in politics.
I could do with like fewer pot shots against the evil social justice warriors. But again, that's like probably the only reason Peterson agreed to talk with Zizek in the first place.
I will say this, though, about Zizek's...
I agreed with a fair amount of those critiques, frankly.
This is what I'll say, is because Zizek drew a distinction between that and Marxists. And frankly, I can appreciate that a little bit.
No, and they are distinct. And I think he also, again, actually, I think when this is actually something I'm using in my book, but I think the difference between recognizing that a lot of times that rhetoric is actually still assuming that you're like the universal subject who's bestowing like, look at how enlightened I am, versus like actually going into like a genuine common global human effort that is not from a place of moralism and performativity, he was 100% right about. And I'd like to see a lot more of that, frankly. So I actually like that critique.
Well, sometimes it feels a bit straw man-y. Like the reason, I've said this before, the reason I disagree with social justice warriors, quote unquote, is not because they care too much about trans rights. It's not because they're shrill. It's because they are liberals without a materialist critique of things.
Nobody, and everybody's on the same page in terms of rights.
I have an interesting headline from the Washington Post. This comes from the Washington Post writing a good headline. See if you'll see what I'm noting here.
That's shocking.
Facebook bans far-right leaders, including Louis Farrakhan, Alex Jones, Milo Yiannopoulos, for being dangerous. So the Washington Post agreed that Farrakhan is a right-wing figure.
Well done. Well done being able to disaggregate there, though I will be signing a protest letter to get him back on Facebook. That's a travesty. It's one of my heroes right there. It's my right-wing bunker mate, as we said in the LA Live show.